look at the ministry's spending plan. So in total in 2024-25, the ministry plans to spend 19.9 billion. And so that in the estimate is broken into three categories known as votes. And within those votes are vote items. As you can see, the Children and Adult Services Program at $19.7 billion includes close to 99% of ministry spending. And there are four primary vote items that contain the majority of ministry spending, which are how we are going to break down our forecast later in this presentation. So next, I'll just walk you through our spending outlook as well as the ministries. So the FAO projects MCCSS spending to grow at an average annual rate of 3.4% from 19.3 billion in 23-24 to 22.9 billion in 2028-29.
Yeah, how's the government think it's going to spend less money?
Ontario budget, the province projected spending growth of 1.1% from 19.4 billion in 23-24 to 20.1 billion in 2026-27. So overall, over the 3-year period from fiscal year 2024 to fiscal year 2026-27, we estimate that the ministry has allocated $3.7 billion less than what is required to fund existing programs and announced commitments. So next, I will briefly go over the FAO spending projection by vote item. Now, there are a lot of numbers on this table. We're going to break down each one of these vote items individually later in the presentation. But as you can see in the first column, the breakdown of our 2023-24 number of 19.3 billion growing to 22.9 billion in 2028-29. I'd just like to point out in the top right, we have the share of growth, and you can see that financial and employment supports vote item constitutes approximately 70% of our projected growth in ministry spending. And so now I will break down our forecast by each of these four vote items, starting with financial employment supports. So this is the ministry's largest vote item. It accounts for about 53% of ministry spending. And this vote item funds the ministry's two primary social assistance programs, being the Ontario Disability Support Program and the Ontario Works Program. And in our forecast, we project spending for this vote item to grow at an average annual rate of 4.5% over our forecast period. And so within financial and employment supports, the two largest programs are the Ontario Disability Support Program and the Ontario Works Program. So first, I'll walk you through our ODSP forecast. So ODSP funds financial assistance for Ontarians with disabilities and their families. And we project spending for this program will grow at an average annual rate of 5.6% over forecast. And this is driven by two primary factors. The first being the number of ODSP cases. So an ODSP case is an individual or a family receiving support, as well as growth in ODSP allowances. And so the program provides beneficiaries allowances for things like shelter and basic needs. And those allowances are indexed by the government to grow at inflation. So first, just taking a look at ODSP cases, which is the chart right in front of you, we project the number of ODSP cases to grow at an average annual rate of 2.8% from about 368,000 in 23-24 to close to 423,000 in 2028-29. And so next, taking a look at the ODSP allowances. And so what the chart in front of you shows is the average allowance, so the average amount of money provided per case adjusted for inflation. So these numbers are on a real basis. So as you can see from 2018 to 2022, ODSP allowances were frozen, which resulted in a decline in the average inflation adjusted allowance from about $16,000 in 28-29 to about $14,500 in 2022-23. And in 2022, the government committed to increase allowances at the rate of inflation with an initial 5% increase in 2022. So you can see the jump from 22-23 from the $14,500 to around $15,000. Then over our forecast, we project the average allowance on an inflation-adjusted basis to grow to about $15,800, which you may notice is still lower than the value when rates were first frozen in 2018. And so the next largest program is the Ontario Works Financial Assistance Program. And so this program provides financial assistance to Ontarians in financial need. And we project spending to grow at an average annual rate of 2.6%. And similar to ODSP, the forecast is going to be based on the number of cases and the amount of allowances. However, unlike ODSP, OW allowances are not indexed to inflation, and they still remain frozen from 2018. So first, looking at the number of cases, our projection forecasts cases to grow at an average annual rate of 2.7% for around 245,000 in 23-24 to close to 279,000 in 28-29.
What's the gray line about?
And again, what this chart is showing you is the average allowance on an inflation-adjusted basis. And so OW allowances
Annually.
continue to be frozen from 2018. So you see from 2018 to 2023-24, the average inflation-adjusted allowance declining from about 11,150
Drops right off.
to about 9,500. And over our forecast
This is what
period,
legislative
if this
poverty
rate
looks like,
continues, we
folks.
project allowances to further decline by an additional 10% to about 8,500 by 2028-29.
People can't live off that $8,500 a year.
So next, we'll walk through the ministry's second largest vote item, which is supports to individuals and families. So this vote item accounts for about 27% of ministry spending, and it provides targeted supports to adults, youth, and children with disabilities, victims of violence, and Indigenous peoples. So we project spending for this vote item to grow at an average annual rate of 2.6%. And we're just going to briefly go over the three largest programs within this vote item, which are developmental service, supportive living, supportive services, and the autism program. So first we have developmental services, supportive living. And so this program provides living arrangements for adults in Ontario with developmental disabilities. We forecast this to grow at an average annual rate of 4.4% over our forecast.
And again,
And this is driven by two
this is like
primary
eugenics
assumptions. The
almost.
first being increasing costs.
That's disgusting.
For
These
supportive
people are
living
fucking
placements,
liars. The government
as well
is
as
such
the
a
assumption
liar.
that the number of clients served will remain constant. So if I can direct your attention to the chart, you can see this dark blue bar is the number of clients served, which has remained relatively constant from 2017-18 to 2022-23. And what this has resulted in, as you can see in the light blue bar, is a growing wait list for these supportive living placements, which increased from about 18,150 in 2017-18 to over 27,000 in 2022-23. The next largest program is the supportive services program. And so this program funds supports and services for adults with developmental disabilities. And they can be provided through two primary channels, the first being services directly delivered by agencies funded by the province, as well as people can receive direct funding through what's known as the Passport program. So we project spending to grow at an average annual rate of 2% in this program. And our forecast is driven primarily by increases in the number of recipients of the province's Passport program, which as I mentioned,